US President Donald Trump has ordered the FBI to investigate Chinese interference in the 2020 elections. He made the announcement during a primetime presidential address to the nation. Trump said the federal government is starting the process of declassifying thousands of files related to what he called shocking vulnerabilities in the country's electoral system, which, according to him, enabled Beijing to acquire data on millions of US voters.
The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening.
Well, Roz and Jordan is live from the White House to unpack President Trump's address. Roz, so the issue of election security was the centerpiece of Trump's address tonight. He presented what he said is new evidence to back up his claims of widespread voter fraud and, of course, this whole issue of Chinese interference. Just unpack this for us, Roz. What was Trump's messaging tonight?
The U.S. President Donald Trump used a primetime speech here in the United States to accuse the Chinese government of trying to undermine the integrity of the 2020 presidential election, an election which Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden, incidentally. The U.S. president also said that there are many vulnerabilities in state and local election systems which have made it possible for the Chinese to exploit and disseminate malign information in order to dissuade voters from choosing their preferred candidates, and indirectly blaming the Chinese for his loss back in 2020. The president also said that there was collusion by members of the so-called deep state, people who worked for the federal government, people Donald Trump has long accused of being aligned with the Democratic Party in this country, people who were trying to undermine Donald Trump's first term in office between 2017 and 2021. The president said that all of this information is being declassified, that there will be a rollout of this information in the coming hours and into Friday here in the United States. And he said that this is all the more reason why members of Congress need to pass something called the Save America Act, a law that, if it were passed, would tighten the process for how people can register to vote, how they would establish their eligibility to vote, including proving that they are U.S. citizens and thus eligible to cast ballots in local and federal elections, as well as try to close the gaps so that ballot boxes can't be stuffed, as it were, or votes eliminated from computer software that counts electronic ballots, as well as ballots being fraudulently created and added to vote totals, thus throwing off the accuracy of the vote, particularly in federal elections.
And Roz, how significant is the timing of this address by Trump? I mean, the midterm elections, as we know, are just a few months away. Trump's under growing political pressure at home with falling poll numbers, rising gas prices, and the Iran war, which is becoming increasingly unpopular.
Well, this is certainly something that the president can use to motivate his base, which is very, very loyal to him, to try to get these changes made. There is no one single federal election law. Elections are run in the states and by local governments. And so by motivating his political supporters, the president can basically multiply the ability to try to change the way that voters are registered in local jurisdictions, the way that elections are conducted and counted, and thus try to, in the president's view, level the playing field. However, Democrats will argue that what the president is trying to do is to essentially disenfranchise disenfranchise people who don't support the president or his agenda by trying to reduce the number of women who can vote, by reducing the number of racial and ethnic minorities who can vote, by perhaps circumscribing the ability to expand the franchise to younger voters. Right now you have to be the age of 18, but in some local communities, teenagers as young as 16 are able to vote in very local elections. And the Democrats are very much afraid that the president is trying to narrow the population of those who can cast ballots, not expand it.
All right, Ros Jordan live for us there at the White House. Ros, thank you. Let's bring in Eric Ham. He's a U.S. political analyst and author of the book, The GOP Civil War Inside the Battle for the Soul of the Republican Party. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. Eric, you've been with us throughout the morning. What did you make of the Trump speech tonight? I mean, we knew he'd repeat those claims of widespread voter fraud in the election, but he also accused the Chinese of interference, of data theft, massive data theft. Why is Trump saying all this now with the midterms around the corner?
In politics, timing is everything. There's a time to actually make arguments. There's a time to go after your geopolitical foes. There's a time to actually begin the process of riling up your base. What we saw tonight was the president's timing was woefully, woefully off. You don't go after a strategic competitor. You don't go after your political base, and you certainly do not give your political enemies the campaign fodder that they need, particularly at a time when they are looking as though they are going to actually take back power, wrest power from your party at this moment. And so the fact that the president decided that tonight would be the time to make this address when the nation is at war, when many, including those within his base, are fleeing him in record numbers, when many of the gains that the president himself made during the 2024 election are making huge inroads with Latino voters, particularly men and African-American men, the fact that the president decided that tonight was the opportune time to do this makes clear that the president's political instincts are off. And this is going to, I think, be tremendous damage to the president, not just today, but it's certainly going to carry over in many of those key races that the president so desperately needs in order to ensure that his party holds power.
Yeah, Eric, and in terms of the geopolitics, why do we think Trump is making these accusations now against China? I mean, he was only on a visit there a few months ago to reset relations.
Not only that, but here's something that is so important, so crucial. We know President Donald Trump when he went to China for that Beijing summit, we know that he took many U.S. company leaders with him in an effort to try to open open the Chinese market to U.S. companies, to businesses. And the fact that the president made this stunning claim tonight at a time when we know, going back to the 2020 election, these claims were widely debunked, and the election was shown to be safe and free. And now the president has simply pull back the opportunities for many of those very companies, for many of the job creators here in the United States. In addition to that, we know that the president has been desperately trying to get China to actually buy many of the soybeans from farmers in the United States. The farming industry has been massively, massively hit. And given the fact that the president made such a claim tonight against a key nation that would purchase much of those products from American farmers, what the president did was a massive disservice to his base, to the farming community, and of course, to the businesses of the United States that look to and certainly depend on Chinese markets.
Eric, just a final thought to you, because you've written a book about the Republican Party, the battle for the soul of the GOP. So, of course, you know the inside track. I mean, Trump, fixated now on the 2020 election loss, how much frustration is there within the Republican Party that he's refusing to move on? Many say they don't see any point in relitigating and going over an election that happened 6 years ago and was officially declared as a Joe Biden win anyway.
There are 6 seats in the U.S. Senate that will potentially determine who controls not only the upper chamber of Congress, but also the entirety of Congress. Many of those Republicans who are desperately trying to maintain control of their seats to push back challengers right now, this is doing them a major disservice because voters all across the country, the country are concerned about the economy. They're concerned about their pocketbooks. They're concerned about what this war in Iran will mean for them. And the fact that the president has decided to turn to something that took place 6 years ago that no one is suggesting is an issue today, this is only, I think, a massive, massive loss for the president. And if the Democrats were smart, they would certainly use this to their advantage to continue to pummel many of those vulnerable Republicans who are desperately seeking and needing President Donald Trump's help right now.
All right, Eric Ham, U.S. political analyst. Eric, always good to get your thoughts and your analysis. Many thanks for your time, Eric. Let's bring in Ina Tangan. He's the chairman of the Asia Narrative Substack and also senior fellow with the Center for International Governance Innovation. He joins us live from the Chinese capital, Beijing. Ina, so what do you make of the allegations then that Trump has made tonight that China carried out massive interference in the 2020 election?
Well, he didn't actually say that they did it, and this is really old information. If you go back to 2015, there was 190+ million records that were put online, not because anyone hacked it, but simply through incompetence. 198 million also in 2017, and there was 4.6 million records from Illinois that were released. And why? Well, it had to do with the vendors making mistakes, not actual hacks. Have there been actual hacks? Yes. Is voter registration information of interest? Yes. Can you purchase it online? Yes. So, and I mean legally. I was involved in running elections, and I used to routinely, when we were preparing for them, purchase the voter rolls so that I had an indication of who was voting where. You don't get individual information, you just get areas of interest. So this is old hat. I think if you started talking to people in China, there would be a massive shrug. This is just politics as usual for Donald Trump. He wants to motivate his base. Not clear how they're going to do anything because it's too late to change any election laws. But he wants to motivate them to put pressure on their congressional representatives and senators to pass this Save America Act. Now, why? He believes that curtailing women and younger voters could help him maintain control of the House and the Senate. So we'll have to see how they react.
Ina, I mean, you and I have spoken about this many times when you've come on air on Al Jazeera. I mean, across both his terms, Trump has waged a trade war against Beijing. Is this then how this will be framed in China because of the trade war Trump is making this? He's making a point.
Well, you'll notice he hasn't stated that he's going to add additional tariffs. If China had done so terribly in the past, he said, yeah, I'm going to put 2,000% tariffs. I'm just exaggerating. So, I mean, this is, like I said, collective yawn. This is internal politics. This is Donald Trump trying to maintain control. There was inferences, but if you start looking at the documents that have been put out there, at least the ones that I've seen, what they are is a rehash of very old things, an attempt to say, oh, look at all this evidence, when in fact there's nothing there. I think there's probably more interest in the Epstein files and the 3 million missing pages than any of this stuff. But, you know, it'll be rehashed. We'll see what happens politically. But for China, I don't think this changes anything.
All right, Ina Tangan, chairman of the Asia Narrative Substack. Ina, as always, many thanks for your time.